like first to thank the organizers for the opportunity. No, I got to know about slavery and human trafficking in my history class in the high school about some 40 years ago. How slavery was started in Ghana, the then Gold Coast, when it was colonized. So when Ghana attained independence from the British in 1957, I thought that was the end of slavery and human trafficking, or at least that is what I believe. It was therefore surprising to me when in 2004, about 5 judges, including myself, who were in the US at the invitation of the State Department, in the course of a roundtable discussion, we were asked about what Ghana is doing about human trafficking, especially child trafficking, which was on the increase in the country. My first reaction was, this cannot be true, but I was not bold enough to voice it out. Back home from the US, I started monitoring the news, and it was then that I heard some non-governmental organizations in conjunction with the Ministry for Gender, Children and Social Protection have rescued some children in the fishing communities in the Volta Lake at a place called Yeji. The children rescued are between the ages of 10 to 18 years. They are mainly from the southern part or the coastal part of Ghana. These children are given out by their parents to the fishermen. The latter were to train them in the vocation of fishing. The parents are virtually given nothing, if anything at all, peanuts. Sadly, a lot of these children taken to these fishing communities, that is the end of the matter. Most of them are forgotten. The parents do not go for them, neither do they return to their parents. One may then ask, what can a 10-year boy or a 10-year boy do, or what can a 10-year-old fish? The information from these NGOs was that the young boys are taken on fishing expeditions, and when the nets are cast, some got entangled beneath the canoes. These young ones are the ones who dive into the river and cut the entangled nets, to release them. This was really heartbreaking to me. Not only was a job the children made to do hazardous, but these children were not going to school. When some of these children were rescued and reunited with their parents, a lot of them were traumatized. Most of the parents are so poor that they can barely feed their children. That explains their readiness to give their children out and forget about them. The government then have to find a way out by providing the parents monies with which to engage in some income-generating activities, and also to put some of the children in schools and others in other vocations. In 2005, the Human Trafficking Act, Act 694, my colleague has just mentioned, was passed. The preamble of the act provides that, quote, it is an act for the prevention, reduction, and punishment of human trafficking, and for the rehabilitation and integration of trafficked persons, and for related matters. It is a comprehensive piece of legislation. It makes provision for the duty to inform, complain, and arrest police assistance, even arrest by private persons without warrant, rescue, rehabilitation and integration, temporary care of trafficked persons, counseling of trafficked persons, and tracing of family of trafficked persons, among others. There is also a provision for the establishment of human trafficking fund. Again, the Act defines human trafficking, my colleague has just mentioned, so I skip them. Then the offenses created under the Acts, that any person who contravenes, who traffic in human person commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to imprisonment for a term not less than 5 years. And also, if you know or you get to know that somebody is engaged in human trafficking and you fail to report, you are also liable for a conviction of imprisonment not less than 12 years. This act was amended in 2009. In spite of the comprehensive nature of the act, young men and women are still trafficked to Europe with a promise to get them jobs. Owing to the promises made to these young men and women, some of them and their parents even pay the traffickers to get them abroad with a view of seeking greener pastures. Most of the victims are school dropouts. Some of them are school dropouts who are not working. it is difficult on their own to secure visas to these countries, that is Europe, Asia, and the Americas. So they make the journey by road through the North African countries and eventually across the Mediterranean Sea to Europe, to countries like Spain, Italy, France, you name them, under very hazardous conditions. Sometimes the boats in which they are traveling, I believe the incident of Lampedusa, I'm sure, is so fresh in your mind. A lot of them also don't make it to Europe as they die either walking across the desert or crossing the sea, the Gulf state. Now the new trend in Ghana is young ladies who travel to the Gulf states and the Middle East, countries like Qatar, Dubai, etc. They say they are going to be engaged as house helps. Here too, a lot of the victims pay traffickers who are agents to take them to these countries. Some of them have returned home and recounted horrifying stories about their experiences. For instance, we are told as soon as they get to these countries, their employers take their passports and even phones. They are made to work long hours a day under very harsh conditions. Our immigration officers, in conjunction with the Ministry of Interior, have rescued some of them, and a lot more need to be done. The situation is so serious that when an envoy from one of the Gulf states presented his credentials to the President of Ghana, the latter had cause to tell the ambassador, to tell his government to treat Ghanaian nationals working in the country very well. The role of the Ghana Immigration Service in combating human trafficking in Ghana. The Ghana Immigration Service is one of the security agencies mandated by the Act, that is the Human Trafficking Act of 2005, to help combat the transnational crime of trafficking in Ghana. The GIS saw the need to intensify its operation in the area of trafficking. Therefore, in 2011, with the support from the European Union, they set up anti-human smuggling and trafficking in person units. The units has operational powers to disrupt any complex networks or organized human trafficking syndicate, thereby preventing, submitting, and punishing offenders of the acts. One of the Ghana Immigration Service mandate is the patrolling of Ghana's border, and in the fight against trafficking, efforts are geared at cross-border trafficking and all other forms. In combating trafficking, they employ, intelligence-based methodology in fighting these menace. The unit also have an intelligence unit that, gives them reports. There are also satellite offices in Afrao. These are borders, Kotka International Airport, Kulungungu, and Elugu. They perform the initial identification and screening of potential cases of trafficking, trafficked person which has been intercepted at this post. The statistics I obtained from the Ghana Immigration Service that the majority of the victims that they encounter are women and children, and a few males. The victims rescued are often found outside the country or intercepted and rescued at our entry point. They tell me in 2016, a total of 20 trafficking cases were recorded. Out of these, 13 were rescued in nature, 7 were interceptions, which were investigated. A total of 42 victims were involved. This comprised 40 females and 2 males. The nationality breakdown was 6 Nigerians, 1 Togolese, and 35 Ghanaians. The ages ranged from 10 to 40 years. Their destination countries were Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, La Côte d'Ivoire, and the Cameroons. In 2017, they tell me a total of 24 cases were recorded, 16 were rescued in nature, 4 were interceptions, which were investigated. A total of 215 victims were involved. They were all females. The nationality breakdown is 9 Togolese, 11 Nigerians, and 195 Ghanaians. Their ages range from 11 to 39 years. Their destination countries were to Nigeria and to the Gulf countries. In the first half of 2018, a total of 5 cases were recorded. 1 was rescued in nature, 4 were interceptions, which were investigated, and 2 were sent to call for prosecution, out of which a conviction was gained. A total of 20 victims were involved. They were all females. The nationality breakdown was 10 Nigerians, 10 Ghanaians. The ages ranging between 17 to 21 years. Their destination was to the Gulf countries. Partnership and collaboration. So the Ghana Immigration Service in the area of international cooperation, they maintain close collaboration with National Agency for Protection of Trafficking Persons of Nigeria for management of Nigerian cases. They also collaborate with international organizations and the embassies such as United Nations International Organization for Migration, United States, British High Commission, among others. Locally, they work with all stakeholders engaged in combating trafficking in Ghana. The Ministries of Interior, Ministry of Gender, Child and Social Protection, Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General, the police, and all law enforcement agencies are mandated by the Human Trafficking Act to combat trafficking in the country. Various non-governmental organizations, both locally and international, have also collaborated with Ghana Immigration Service to combat trafficking. When the former president of IAW, Justice Medina, invited me to this summit, I indicated to her that, in an email that I'm not an expert, but I was prepared to be a discussant or share the Ghanaian, share with participants from the Ghanaian perspective, so to know the way forward to curtail, if not completely eliminate this organization. To know what other countries are doing to combat this crime. We have the laws, and we know there are big cartels out there who engage in this crime. Since some of the victims are told what to say when they are arrested, it is difficult to go after the cartels behind this organized crime. For instance, I have been an appellate judge for the past 12 years, court of appeal judge, but I have not handled any human trafficking case at the appellate level. Even at the lower bed, I joined the Ghanaian Judiciary as magistrate in 1990, and from that time to date, I have not tried any human trafficking case. This tells you that to get people to report cases of human trafficking which will lead to a successful prosecution is a very huge task. There are also other laws like the Labor Act of 2003, which prohibits forced labor and exposure to imminent hazard. The Criminal Offences Act of 1960 also is there to be used for a successful prosecution of traffickers and to promote the well-being and prevent the abuse of trafficking persons. We have the Children's Act of 1998, which also has a provision that in dealing with children, the best interests of the child should be paramount. Since it is becoming increasingly difficult to report and prosecute traffickers, education is the key. The target should be directed at the public. We need to provide appropriate information on abuses, the signs to look out for, and also provide essential services for trafficked persons. This is because our human beings must enjoy their fundamental human rights. Last year, in July 2017, when IAWJ Ghana, at our annual general meeting, we invited an officer from the Ghana Immigration Service to have a conversation with us as to the signs to look out for in the human trafficking. The sad thing is that the traffickers are closer than we think. You know, just yesterday on the eve of my departure, you know, I chanced on a news item that is on Monday, 12th of 20. So a news item in Ghana with the caption, "Challenging Heights Rescue 42 Children from Slavery." The children were between the ages of 5 and 16. They were rescued from forced labor in the Volta Lake. According to the president of the Challenging Heights, the rescue took them nearly 2 months. You know, they have to monitor before, you know, intelligence, people are not willing to try. I hope to take some ideas from the summit and share some with you. I thank the organizers for the invitation to participate in this summit and the opportunity to share with you the Ghanaian experience. Thank you very much.